Oops, says I'm live. Well, welcome to my cellar for at least the 108th time. Numbers are hard to figure. All right, got a number of interesting things to talk about tonight. As always, just answering questions and stuff posed by prior things. The first one's an interesting question, and it goes to the philosophy of your game and your campaign. How are random encounters supposed to be used? I find modules improve if I take out as much combat as possible. Makes it feel more like a nightmare when the only fight in the session is the hardest one, and everyone before that point is just a rude person who doesn't want any trouble. I only use random encounters if characters sleep inside a dangerous place. Okay. I wouldn't do it that way. Nothing but the fight against the big bad guy in one way is kind of a railroad. Take a novel I'm reading right now, Bernard Cornwell's The Last Viking, marvelous series. And of course, it's a novel, but aren't we creating a story as well? And Uhtred, son of Uhtred of Bevenberg, has already been in 3 really tight vices and is looking to squeak out of the 4th, all in the sequence of the story. So in the sequence and chronology of your story, you have to decide how you want to use them. Now, random encounters don't have to be completely stupidly random. For instance, Frank Mentzer's Lich Dungeon. He has mapped out all the patrolling guards, how many there's likely to be, how often they come by. And it's just your bad luck if you run into a patrol of guards. But that would be a random encounter. And that's completely justifiable. Because after all, a large secure place full of treasures is going to be guarded. Okay. I used to use and still do occasionally a random encounter when the party starts standing around and nattering at each other. Nothing like something coming down the hall to spur them on. Sometimes I'll use a random encounter to give them a clue that they missed somewhere else. And again, my experience is considerably different than yours. I write the adventures, but I don't play them out. What I do run, I run at cons with time constraints. So no, at cons I wouldn't run a bunch of randoms, but we are the sum of our experiences and our memories, and make memories with random encounters. Random encounters are a gift when a couple people in the party need just a few experience to level up. You can always, and believe me when I tell you that random encounters are never going to all be cakewalks, no matter what you set them up to be, because of die rolls. A few years ago, I wrote an adventure for Ironwind Miniatures, or Ironwind Metals, pardon me. And one of the early random encounters was, in this case, you might run into something. This is what you ran into. And there were several options, and it was all decided by chance. And it was just a scuzzy caravan with a couple, 3 guards, and the party of orcs and goblins who were the PCs nearly got slaughtered in what should have been an easy encounter for them. And I'd set it up to be easy, because when they when when they got their expected win, they were going to find that all the camels were laden with expensive brocaded cloth. Not something a bunch of orcs and goblins are going to be real thrilled about, but worth a lot of money. Random encounters serve a number of different purposes. They can give clues. They can spur the party to get their act together and quit bickering with each other. When I write adventures, there's lots of potential encounters in there, but you aren't necessarily going to trigger each one to reach what the ostensible goal of that adventure is. You may walk past several, and then and one particular one I have in mind, there's one you ought to walk past every time. It's horrible, and it's claimed a whole lot of TPKs. So then we went on. We had some response to talking about wishes. Excuse me, got an itchy eye tonight. I like the rule that a wish is no more powerful than any other 9th level spell. May I make a correction here? I don't know that that's a rule, but it certainly can be a ruling. Back in the days when I was on dragonsfoot.org, there's about 130 pages of a thread back there. You can't add to it, but I'm sure you can go back and read it if you're a member. And it doesn't cost you anything to join. And one of my signatures, below your actual name, how those bulletin boards go, was rulings, not rules. I'm all about rulings, not necessarily rules. And if there's a rule you don't like, make a ruling that modifies it. I grew up in the era of house rules and house mods, and especially in minis. We had to make house rules because something wasn't covered because the rules weren't that good, perhaps. But I digress. I always ran wishes as no more powerful than any other 9th level spell. Basically, anything a 9th level magic user or 7th level cleric spell can do. Plus, there were the ability score increases possible that were mentioned in the book. That's cool. Let me reiterate again. You're not doing it wrong if you're having fun. If you guys, and you guys, and again, this is a gender non-specific term I use. If you're having fun, you're doing it right. So some people want to argue that you could be righter. Not me. Now, there's another question in here that sort of goes to this same thing. I'm sorry. I just realized that they're kind of related. I should have cut and pasted. Anyway, where is it? Okay. Now someone said, okay, wishes and what they can do and what they can't do. And this is it. But if the earth was created by God or gods, then a wish can't be used to move rocks, as rocks are created by the divine. Okay, I'll parse words with you. Rocks are created. Floomp, there's a rock. Artifacts are empowered or endowed. Ruling. That's the whole point, a ruling. That's the way it would play in my game. All right. And if you like something else, then, as long as everybody knows the parameters and, what works and what doesn't. And if someone new comes in and they're able to quickly pick up, you're loose on this and tight on that and ignore this something else completely, like me with encumbrance, unless it becomes ridiculous, I pretty much ignore encumbrance. Now, if I let them find, 7,800 copper and silver pieces, well, haul in a mixed thing so they can't pick them out. Then I'm going to say, okay, divvy it up and everybody's got something, But rulings are what make yours. They grease the skids and they probably provide more fun. I attended Egyptian campaign in Carbondale 1 year back in the 90s. And of course, Carbondale's where my infamous first playtest campaign was. And I signed up for the only first edition AD&D game on the list, run by some guy representing an adventure game company who were trying to market new modules for old D&D players. Wow, already we're old in the 90s. Woo! And here I got a birthday coming up Tuesday. Oh man, I'm feeling old, creaky. Give me my cane. He killed every PC in the group in the first encounter. Well, he was a fool on so many levels. Let's and I don't care who it was. Let's dissect this. If you're trying to sell an adventure as being really cool, you ought to let them read a couple, 3 chapters, not the first 6 pages, and kill them. If you're trying to sell your product, you ought to let them go through and have some fun and maybe fudge a couple of die rolls here and there so they just have a great big deal of fun and or not, whatever. But you don't kill them all right away. Or if you do, you bring them back right away. Hey, everybody, your brothers just showed up. And, you keep going. That's silly. It's stupid sales and bad DMing. Sorry you had to do that. Oh, as a side note, I've spoken of him before. Lou Zocchi, one of the pioneers and the absolute pillars of the industry. Zocchi. He suffered a catastrophic fire, lost almost all of his stock, original manuscripts, whatever. I know I've seen on Facebook there's a fund being set up to try and help Lou get back on his feet. And my God, Lou's one of the guys that I go see at every con who I know. I'm glad to see him there because he's older than me. This is a terrible, catastrophic loss for Lou. So look it up, check it out anyway. Let's see. Oh, someone commented on one of my comments. Peyote is basically the same as mushrooms. Trust me. I laughed as that sounded like the voice of experience. Well, yeah, the statute of limitations is well off that, and it is the voice of experience. Frequent and continued experience of a certain part of my life. Oh, another thing about mushrooms. Another reason, especially Central and Western Europeans and Scandinavian people are fascinated by mushrooms because of fairy rings. What we call fairy rings. They would find these perfect circles of mushrooms going in the middle of an opening in the forest, and of course that had to be magic. And if the mushrooms themselves made you see big hairy flying beasts, well, they were twice as magic. All right, now this is a long, involved thing, and it's about doing a shtick at the table. And some of these people I've heard of, and some of them I haven't. And what I'll say about doing a shtick at the table, and by shtick, it's going into a voice or mannerisms, or you change your posture or whatever. And for people that like to do that, that's fine. Great. You're having fun. And that's what you should be doing. I need to move up a little, don't I? You should be having fun. One time at a Gary Con, I don't recall ever doing anything like this before. I slipped into what I decided was parcel tongue. And because someone had cast a spell to talk to a giant snake, or it might have been one of the snakes and snake riders of the Arredondo. I don't remember. But they had a spell, and they could converse with me, and I started making everything I said very soft and sibilant and slurring my S's. And I just kind of fell into it, and we did it for, golly, it must have been 3 or 4 minutes. We had this interplay back and forth, and the rest of the table was just, and then I got done, and I was kind of embarrassed because I don't always do that. Now, yeah, I use my voice. I've always used my voice. I'll drop it, I'll raise it. But I don't think what I do is really a shtick. I just try to make the voice appropriate. If you think about it, what do most humans do when they see a little bitty baby? They raise their voices. So there's a voice, there's a shtick. But no, I don't really get into them. I might have done a pirate thing once if they ran into a pirate or somebody who talked like a pirate, because I have fun doing that once in a while. But no, this individual mentioned Robin Williams. My God, if I was as talented as Robin Williams, you think I'd be doing this? I'd be doing stand-up shtick and making big bucks in big concerts. Jonathan Winters, oh my God, there was a man that could do shtick. He was amazing. But no, I don't do it as a rule. Once in a while, I might slip into it, but never, nothing that lasts through the whole game or anything like that. And it's too exhausting trying to remember to stay in character and get out of character. And it's too much work. We're there to have fun. I am too. Let's see. Where can I buy your new stuff? All right, this month, the Kickstarter goes live. And believe me, the first Curmudgeon afterwards, I will have placards and signs and everything else. And you'll know where to get it. I know I've been promised by the publisher that it's coming out this month. I don't even know all the pieces of the package. But I know, I'm pretty sure we aren't getting into stretch goals. It's just all one big, hey, here it is. You want it? Plunk down your bucks. We'll see. It's I'm pleased with it. It's when it comes out, I'll tell you the story behind the original covers and the fights I had over it. All right. I always suspected that the original TSR founders and folk to have done acid way back in the 60s and 70s. No, actually not. Certainly not acid. And even though I don't know him nearly that well, I cannot envision Dave Arneson dropping acid. I was definitely the hippie dude at TSR. I had hair down to my shoulder. I had great big mutton chops. And I never did anything in the building. I never took anything into the building. There were people there over the period of time that I were that also liked to smoke pot. We never did anything on company property. I've spoken of it before. I don't see the need to dredge it back up again. I'm not ever going to get into who did what. If they're dead, I don't demean the dead. And if they're alive, I'm not going to out them. Because, hey, maybe the only time they ever did it is while I was there. But it was pot or forms of cannabis. That's all anybody did while I was there. Let's see. What's next? Okay. He was talking about the orc novel that I mentioned. Yeah, the orc series, and he says an ode to the orc chieftain, and he goes on to explain that he had a campaign where they were all orcs. They did really great things, and they helped slave escapes from hill giants and drows, and that's what memories are made of. Doesn't matter who you play, and it's cool that you did play a non-human campaign type environment. I'll be very honest. In the very beginning, I didn't see why anybody would want to play anything but a human, but I was kind of brainwashed by Gary. And then after I read orcs and I read dwarves and I read the Foundation of Drakenor and Scars of the Sun Ring, my outlook changed a lot, and that's just in the last 6 years. So hey, that's great. Just don't consider semi-intelligence just a bag of EPs running around out there waiting for you to open it up. And it's great that you have a campaign like that, a great campaign memory, a tale that'll be told in the taverns late at night when the wind howls outside. United his people. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, now here's one that goes way back. Almost 2 years. Okay. All right. This is back. I must have been talking about armor and stuff because as I've said before, I was a big armor buff till I donated my collection to a museum in California. I mentioned a book by Osprey. Did I like those? Yeah, and he's done one that's about bombers. Yeah, I like the Osprey books for a number of reasons. I first started using them as references for painting because their earlier books, the smaller, I don't know what the format is now, but the earlier, smaller books. Here's the Warriors of Celtiberia, the Roman army in the Republic, Goths. They did these books. They were a little bit of background on the people and the time that they were prominent and their culture, and it was lots of nice color pictures, so you knew how to paint your figures, or at least you got some ideas how to paint your figures. So I still admire the Osprey series. If I had lots and lots of money, I'd probably have a wall that's completely covered with every book Osprey made. But I don't paint anymore, so that's the biggest reason I quit getting them. But I like their books. They did ancient stuff. They did good World War II, Civil War. I looked at them as a painting guide. I really did. I really like it. All right. Someone says, okay, I may have spoken in the past, but I was curious about your relationship with Gary may have changed, or if it did when you left. Did you still remain in contact on some regular basis? How did you let Gary know? He was surely aware of the issues with the blooms. All right. I was summoned to the office out on Park Springs or whatever that one was. Told to sit down. There's Brian. There's Kevin. There's Gary. And was given an untenable option because they wanted me out of periodicals. And I resigned. And the floor opened up. The abyss yawned. And I looked at Gary, who didn't move a muscle the entire time, and I felt like I'd been stabbed in the back of the kidney and a knife twisted. It was only many years later that I found out that on that week, that's when the Blooms had gained control of the company and set about to make things in their own image. I was the first thing that certainly didn't fit their image. I didn't know that for many years. I felt Gary had stabbed me in the back, or allowed me to be stabbed in the back. I had no idea because I was making money. The magazine was booming. Periodicals was making a big, healthy profit every year. Everything in periodicals we did turned to money. So for years, I thought I'd been screwed over in the worst possible way. And I moved to Cincinnati, and I did Adventure Gaming Magazine for a couple of years, and then the bottom dropped out of gaming. In the industry, I still played games with some friends from Partha and around the area. And it was only a few years before Gary died, and when I went up to a Lake Geneva gaming convention and had a chance to sit down and talk to him, that we were able to figure things out. Because in the meantime, I had read John Peterson's book, and the timing and everything now made sense, and he was powerless to stop them from putting me in the position that they knew I would not accept, and under conditions they knew I would not accept. So once I had figured that out, and he and I actually, pressed the flesh out on his porch, we had Kringles and coffee. It was kind of like old times again. He was very apologetic, explaining what had happened and, going on. And I cut him off and I said, yeah, I read the book. I understand now. I was very disturbed when he died. We had just suffered a blizzard down my way, and I was unable to make it to the funeral, which bothered me. I certainly would have been there had it not been for the blizzard. Gary only much later became aware of the issues with the Blooms because he wanted to believe what they were telling him. Because he wanted his company to succeed. He wanted to believe that what they were telling him was the only way it was going to. I want to make sure I don't miss anything else before I go on to this last one. Okay, now here's a loaded question, if ever I got one. But there's a very, very profound observation. So I'm going to read this verbatim. I'll just correct the one word that's misspelled. Is the game ascending or decaying with each new edition? Seems like it's too hard to tell. Feels like the same, excuse me, I should have my glasses on. Feels like the name D&D is a thread and gamers provide new fabric each edition. That's a very profound observation. Yes, D&D is the thread. And the ampersand is the needle. My opinions of the earlier, I thought that, I'm assuming you mean ascending or decaying. Is it going the way of entropy, or is it still growing? I think it's still growing because 5e has brought an enormous flux in, and as one of the ones that wrote part of it. Great, hey, I don't care how different 5e is from what I helped Gary and Dave and Jim and Rob all write. It's D&D. Darwin proved that we got to evolve. Everything evolves to fit the niche they find themselves in. I helped create first edition, but I never really moved playing beyond just this side of first edition, where I thought D&D was perfect because I could just pick and choose as I liked and build my own world. But I'm not. I don't dissociate, or I'm not ashamed of first edition. It served a very valid purpose in that it codified rules, and now tournaments can be played. People could make valid comparisons, etc. Second, I saw it as cleaning up all the typos and some of the clumsy stuff. I saw it as not so much of a revision but as a cleanup. Now, the next two that came out were unadulterated crap, in my opinion. 4 was so gritty that it took 4 hours to play out an encounter. It was like miniatures on the table. And now 5, they got it right again because now it's a loosey-goosey, let's go flowing game. Whether it's growing or decaying, I think who's playing and how many is a real good indication. And I think D&D, what D&D is today, what it has become, what it's evolved into, I think is ascending. I think it's growing. I think it's still very healthy. Who knows, 5-6 years from now, there may be 6th edition that goes a whole nother way because it's got virtual reality and goggles and crap in it. I don't know. I don't care. I still know that when you go back and read the very early original books, you find my name all over them, and that's fine. As a proud paternal great-great-great-grandpa, my children, you're doing well. Let's see, what else do we have to talk about tonight? I guess that's it. I've run out of things to say. Well, not really, but yeah, it's time to quit. I've hit my time limit. So, see you next time. Dodada Gopi. Oh, hello. I'm still figuring out when this thing starts. Welcome to my cellar.
He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs. Still quite a feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Last man around when them rates went down. Calling Gary in that Lake Geneva town. Hey Gary, it's an awful mess. Let me edit, we'll have success. D&D and Dragon Magazine. He's a curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Magic missile, it's a mortar shell. Make it hit in the first level spell. Brought psionics to the game to attack that wizard brain. PSR and fantasy, collection of micro armory. Titan with tramp under a tree, high as could be. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Curmudgeon.